So, welcome into session number 5. How's it going?
Great, actually.
Yeah.
We have a long weekend ahead of us in Germany, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. What do you have planned for that weekend?
Nothing special. Seeing family, friends, taking a chill weekend. Has been a lot of stress in the last few days, weeks, and yeah, I'm looking forward to a few days off. Yeah.
Okay, well, good. And I hope you enjoy it. I'm looking forward to digging into what that stress is and finding out how things are
Yeah.
going. So, yeah, why don't we kick things off here? I see you
Yeah.
got.
So Uh, as last time I've prepared some topics, I tried to cluster them into the four blocks I had last time, and I would like to start with the personal stuff.
Sure.
So actually, I had 1 week vacation. I went sailing on the Northern Sea, North Sea, north from Germany, and yeah, it was an actual nice trip. We did about 120 nautical miles and yeah, met a lot of cool people. Planned a new vacation for later this year, fall, about fall, around fall this year, and yeah, I had some good relaxing time off, but it was not a relaxing holiday. It was a lot of vacation stress, I guess.
Okay,
Yeah,
wait. Back up. First, you said you planned another vacation for fall. Is it another sailing trip?
yeah, yes,
Okay. And so
with the same crew. Yeah,
yeah, and that was the other thing I wanted to ask about. You said you met a lot of people. Were they all on the same boat with you? And
yeah, right.
okay, yeah.
So it's an basically I know the skipper, the captain of the ship, and he collects a bunch of people across Germany and makes sailing trips. And yeah, so there were new people I met, and with them I planned a new sailing trip in the fall. Yeah.
So I want to ask you something here that's only semi-related to any of what we normally talk about. When people meet up, I guess are they mostly from Germany? That
Yeah.
yeah. Uh, what do people tend to talk about when you're meeting a stranger in Germany?
A bunch of stuff. So there were a lot of talks about basically working and their experiences. We had some similarities. Basically, we worked both for the public sector in Germany,
Hmm.
which was kind of fun to find out that they had the same customers basically
Hmm.
as we do. So yeah, the first few days we were talking about work, and then a lot of private stuff. Basically, where they come from, what they do for fun, and their experiences in past years and holidays. And yeah,
Okay, cool. The reason I ask about this is because I have some friends who moved from where I live to Spain, and they said that one of the biggest differences is that people don't just start talking about work when you first meet them. It's a very common question where I live to say, "Oh, where do you work? What do you do for a living?" Those are ways that
Mhm.
you would get to know people around the same age. And they said in Spain it's not that. People don't talk about work outside of work. I didn't know if Germany was like that.
I don't know if it's typical for Germany, but I think the crew had the same vibe,
Yeah.
and hence it was yeah, a straight topic to start on. Yeah.
Okay. But so it sounds like you picked up another hobby, sailing now, and no.
I guess a few years back I started sailing, but this is my vacation hobby basically. I like to sail, but it's nothing I do for a weekend, but
Yeah,
instead take a week off and go sailing. Yeah.
I see. And you mentioned that the trip was relaxing, it was fun, it was nice, but your brain wasn't relaxing and fun and nice during that time. Is that?
Yeah, so basically, sailing is a lot of work. If you go sailing in the open sea, there are some areas where you can sail and relax in the sun, but I chose a trip where you had to do actual work on the ship,
Mm,
and it was exhausting from a body's perspective. And
okay, I see.
I took my mind off work, but it was nothing. It was not on holiday. I came relaxed from back.
I see. Okay, I misunderstood because I have seen it happen both ways. You could have booked a trip to the beach where you have nothing to do, you're given all the food in the world that you want, and yet your brain is still focused on work. So this
Uh,
was it was physically exhausting, but mentally you
mhm.
were fine, you met good
Yeah.
people. Okay, got a chance to detach from work. So how did you feel at the end of it when you came back? Were you like, I'm ready to work again?
No, I would have loved an additional week. It's something I learned in last year, but I have booked already this sailing trip. I need 2 weeks off from work to calm down, to relax, and get the stress off before I can go work again. So that is something I took for myself. My vacations ahead are all planned for 2 weeks or longer.
Okay. And does that include fall?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. So fall will be for at least 2 weeks. Yeah, I think that's a really good thing to learn about yourself, and I think that's probably pretty standard. I have taken sometimes a Friday off of work, just one day, and just that thought of Friday is done, Saturday is done, and I think I have a whole other day to relax is
Yeah.
something that finally strikes me, and it takes you time to get out of that mentality of I'm stuck in my normal routine, I've got work on my mind. So I think that's really good to do. The other thing, and this is taking things to an extreme, I take lots and lots of notes. Every time my wife and I go somewhere or do something, I have a note called vacation learnings. And I write down, was the weather the right weather that we wanted? Would we have
Yeah.
changed something about where we stay? So perfect that you realized, yes, I need to take 2 weeks from now on. Do you foresee any problems with being able to take 2 weeks off of work at a time?
No.
Okay.
It's obviously taking a vacation on work is never a good timing. There
Yeah.
are always stuff on, but it's nothing preventing me from taking a holiday.
Gotcha. Okay. And that's good. And having people who are understanding about the situation and accommodating that. Regardless, even if they weren't understanding, you need to do what you need to do sometimes.
Uh,
So, okay, great. Yeah, so you got your massage and you liked it
yeah,
enough to do another one.
right. I have prepared another holiday. So after taking my sailing trip, I'm planning on doing a 2 week vacation in Turkey. This May, actually, in 2 weeks, and I'm looking forward to it. And right after this one, I've booked the second massage for myself and my girlfriend. Yeah,
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
it was
So
really great. Yeah,
I'm glad to hear it. I think these are things that are nice ways to celebrate. I know you said originally you'd spend a lot of money on people and
yeah.
that could be great too. I'm not judging that, but it's also nice to have something that is, focused on you sometimes or just helps you relax. Um, so now let me get this straight. You've taken a week recently for the sailing trip. You're going to take 2 weeks at the end of May and then 2 weeks in the fall. Does that represent your year's vacation? Is there more to it than that?
I have a second, the sixth week in this year is around the holidays in December.
Okay.
So basically between Christmas and New Year's, and I'm planning on doing the second week of this vacation in January, but I can't book it yet.
Yeah, yeah, I see. And out of curiosity, if you were to say, I want 7 weeks or 8 weeks, is that something your company would say, okay, take it, but it's unpaid or what?
So basically, I'm able to do. Um, I was informed that our audio is not as well.
Oh, it says
Could that
audio
be?
is good. That's the only comment I see.
Okay,
Okay.
maybe it's our internet connection. Okay,
Okay.
I was yeah. Okay, so where were we? Sorry.
Oh, just could
Oh,
you?
seventh,
Yeah, yeah,
seventh
yeah.
week. It would be unpaid, yeah.
Yeah.
But you have to inform your supervisor, your manager. I guess 3 months in beforehand. So it's a process behind this, but it's possible, yeah.
Hmm.
But
Okay.
really uncommon.
Yeah, yeah. And I think 6 weeks is a healthy amount of time. I think that's good, especially knowing that
Mhm.
you can detach. And now that you're going to be taking 2 weeks at a time, it should be pretty interesting to see the effects of that because if you hadn't known this beforehand, then I guess you were doing like partial relaxation on your vacations before. Were you
Mhm.
mostly taking 1 week at a time?
No, I was. Sometimes, sometimes I took some German holidays. So basically, one day and made an 1.5 week vacation out of it, and that was short. I need my 2 weeks of vacation minimum. Better 3 weeks, but yeah.
Okay. Well, so originally I'd asked you, okay, how did you feel leaving this? And you said 1 week is not enough, and we talked about that.
Mhm.
Did you settle into work well enough when you got back, even though you weren't totally ready? Excuse me.
Yeah, I guess. So I have a lot on my plate.
Mhm.
I have a bunch of tasks that were left for my manager to do for me now, and I have the project that is still ongoing. But it's, I guess, the usual day work which was meeting me. So it wasn't something that was hard to figure out or come back to.
Yeah.
But it was yeah, the usual stuff. Obviously with a lot of new stuff for me in my new role, but nothing unwelcoming for
Okay.
me.
That makes sense. Um, do you generally, and I want to get to the other bullet points you have, but these thoughts are crossing my mind. Do you feel like when work is done that you're able to detach for the day?
It depends on the day. This is something I currently struggle with. I have some bullet notes later on, but I guess we can talk about it now. Um, I have no stress outlet at the moment. Everything I tried to do is currently not working. I have some theories on why, but it's nothing tangible I can act on. It's yeah, there's a German word called Schweinehund, which is there is no English translation, I'm sure of it, but basically it means that you something is holding you back from doing the things you should do,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's an mindset thing, an inner thing, and yeah, I'm currently struggling with it. Yes.
Okay. Um, all right. How about this? Since you said it's a bullet point you have later, I'll remember this for now, and we can go through the list that you presented here. But yeah, I do definitely want to dig into that later.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a few bullet points down. It's not too far
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so that was my personal blog I prepared for today, and I wanted to talk about the career things I got on my plate now.
Mhm.
So I've mentioned you in the last session. I'm preparing for doing some recruitment tasks,
Yeah.
and basically I had 15 interviews in the past month, so a bunch. And I started out shadowing some experienced manager, and I was um, happy to see that my instincts were aligning with their judgment, which was a confidence boost in that regard. And yeah, we hired 3 candidates and have still open positions we are trying to fill. And yeah, it was really nice to see how the other side works. I was only on the interviewed part,
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
interviewing parts. Yeah, and yeah, it was a nice experience, and I'm looking forward to the next recruiting processes. Yeah.
That's good. Partially because it's part of your job now. So if
Yeah.
you weren't looking forward to it, that would be unfortunate. Have those 3 candidates started already?
uh, 2 of them.
Okay. And did either of those two work for you?
Um, the one works in the project I'm trying to delegate to a new peer. Yeah.
Yeah. And is that person going to take on that project?
No, he's the lead developer, so kind of, yeah. In that regard, that he's trying to fill the leading developer part, where I was the PO,
Mhm.
so the counterpart, the direct counterpart on that end. but not as a product owner.
Okay. So I think you mentioned this earlier that that project is still, yeah, there's also the ongoing project. I'm assuming
Mhm.
you're talking about that. And last time we talked, it was taking up about 25% of your time. Is it still roughly the same amount of input from you?
It's less.
Yeah.
I was able to delegate most of the work to the peer I wasn't sure he could take on
Yep.
the
I
task.
get it.
But he proves more skilled than I've thought, and hence I am able to delegate more and more tasks to him. And he's now running the project, but there are still some meetings I attend to, mostly because they are political and it's a mess from a management perspective. And if he needs a helping hand, I go in and help him.
Okay. I want to drill into the part where you said he's proven to be more skilled than you might have thought. Why do you think that's the case?
um, I guess because I gave him the opportunities to figure out it by himself. So there, when I took meetings with him, he was always the lead developer that might be able to take over the product owner role. But I couldn't be sure because I didn't delegate enough tasks to be sure. And yeah, that's a lesson learned for me. Maybe take off the hands and see where it goes.
Yeah. And that's why I was grinning at the beginning. One, you gave the perfect answer that you could have had here, which is I let go of the reins for a bit and things went great. And I think people generally need a few things in order to thrive. I think they need some amount of autonomy and just respect and trust. And the autonomy part, I'm sure you respected and trusted this person, but they didn't have the opportunity to prove
Mhm.
that they could handle things. And all of a sudden, once you gave them that opportunity, they rose to the challenge. And it sounds like the project's going well. And also, it doesn't sound like this is too much of a time commitment for you. Is that the case too? Like you'd be happy with this level for the next however long?
So that's the thing. I'm not sure, not quite sure yet. My current manager was asking me if I could transition into product management
Hmm.
uh, instead of my product owner role, and hence I am required to take off my hands from the project and move on to project management. But I haven't started project management yet because the new role as a people manager, as a manager, is taking too much time currently. Yeah.
Okay. Um, Let me get this part straight. So you mentioned that your manager wants you to do project management. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And you're a product owner right now.
Yes.
Okay. So what is project management at your company?
It's basically so my product as a product owner, I was working on a small product within our big enterprise software.
Hmm.
And basically, moving to project management means directing the vision and the roadmaps for the enterprise software instead of the small project within.
Okay, I see. Uh, Instead of a small one. Um, okay, so this is a shift from at least what I had in mind for what you would be doing, although I may not have ever been totally clear on this. You wanted this leadership position, and I thought it was like just an increase in scope of what you were doing. But I think this now represents sort of a shift into, hey, instead of focusing on this product that you were working on, now focus back on the big enterprise stuff, which sounds like there's maybe more scope and opportunity
Yeah,
there. Yeah. Is that
right.
something you're excited about? Do you like that?
Yes, especially with the thought in my mind that CTO is a bigger picture than working on a small
Yeah.
project, and I like this direction. This is another opportunity to grow into vision of a CTO.
Yeah.
And hence I welcome the change. I would have loved to have a few more months to settle into this one role before moving the next thing I work on. But yeah, sometimes opportunities arise, and I have to take it.
Yeah, and I think there's a big difference between good busy and bad busy. Good busy is
Mhm.
having a lot of things on your plate, but feeling like you can manage it. And bad busy is feeling overwhelmed by things. And I know you just said you'd like to have had a few more months, but sometimes you don't get that. Is it overwhelming? I guess you've mentioned already there's stress and you can't figure out how to tone that stress down.
So because of the stress, I haven't taken on the project management role yet. I have said I want to do this, but I have to still first figure out how to settle down the project and my time in the project before also in the small product I'm working on before moving into this new role. And I haven't gotten a feedback yet on when I'm expected to work on this project manager role.
Okay, so it's possible that it's soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, there is quite a lot to figure out here. For one, if you're expected to take on a new role and feel like you don't have the time, I think this learning that you just figured out with your peer about giving them some space and the
Mhm.
opportunity to learn things, I think you'll probably need to end up applying that sooner and with more people. What is taking up your time that could be delegated?
Um, Currently, I'm supporting a CEO and my manager in sales conversation with a potential big customer, and they need someone who is skilled in talking to political people. So it's as I mentioned, we work in the public sector, and hence the political expertise is needed there. And this is something only a few people have in my company, and I'm one of them. But this is time which I see in the future is getting free. But it's taking quite a few hours a week currently. So this is one chunk. I have the meetings I mentioned in the product, in the small project, where um, I hope to get them freed in a few weeks. And I hope this is enough time on the block to transition into project management.
I see. So the two main portions you can delegate are this arena where you need some political skills and no one else currently has them. So is there someone you've identified as a potential delegate for that who could take over or start shadowing?
Um, yes, but I don't think it's required. I think it's quite rare to have those customers knock on your door,
Mm,
and so I don't think it's necessary to delegate any more of them or find a peer to shadow me because it's only, let's say, every year or two. It's really rare, and hence I don't see it quite fitting to be have someone shadow me. Yeah.
I see. I see. Okay. So in some number of maybe couple of weeks or something, this should just evaporate and
Yeah.
there. Okay. And then the other one you said is this small project, and you're hoping that I guess the combination of your peer who was already at the company and this new lead developer who was just hired,
Mhm.
those two can take on this thing,
Yeah.
and you won't even need to stand in for political reasons anymore. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. It's funny because something will always find a way to fill your time.
Yeah.
And ideally, the best you can hope for is just that it's the right things, the things that are highest priority. And you just mentioned that you're not sure when this project management would come about. It's possible it's
Mhm.
soon, it's possible it's later, and it's possible that it's soon and yet it's not urgent. So they're just trying to start you on it, but maybe it could last for longer. How will you
Yeah.
get more certainty on what they're expecting out of that?
I guess the first thing is figuring out who is expecting what,
Mhm.
because I'm not sure who are the stakeholders of this decision. I obviously talked to my manager about this, and he was looking forward to it. There's the basically it's called Tribe Lead, which is the colleague that is responsible for any money decision made in this project,
Yeah.
which is not basically directly tied to the product management. Um, he was telling me that he was looking for someone to staff the project management role. Um, I guess he would want it directly and as soon as possible. But this would be an expectation I could manage and put off for a few weeks or month if it's required. And then there's the current project manager role or group. There are 4 other project managers that are looking for support as well, and obviously they want support as soon as possible. And those are the stakeholders I'm not quite sure of. And yeah, I know what they would answer if I would ask them, what do you expect when I'm starting? And
Okay.
that's not helping.
So I want to get this straight, and I'm going to try to say as few German words as possible
I'm
because
sorry.
I don't want to embarrass myself. There's someone who controls the money. I'm just going to call them the treasurer or something. They,
Tribe lead, I have called them.
what are they called?
It's two English words, tribe lead.
Oh, okay. Got you. So that person though, you believe in their need for your
Yeah.
time as a project manager, and it's the other project managers that you're not sure about.
Mhm.
Okay. Um so if all 4 project managers are saying we're swamped, we need more people, you've mentioned that there's hiring going on. You've already hired 3 people and you said there are still more roles. I'm just asking out of curiosity, have they thought of hiring a project manager?
I don't think so. And I couldn't reason you a good reason why they shouldn't. I guess the current mentality is you have to be working in this field for a few years before you can staff this role. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's reasonable for you to eventually take it on, and you seem happy with the opportunity, and it's just a question
Yeah.
of timing. So I don't think that's problematic. If these project managers, you think you could hold them off for another month or so, it also sounds like that timeline would work out pretty well with you being able to settle both the customer negotiation and the smaller
Mhm.
project that you mentioned. So I think without knowing more and without digging in anymore, it sounds like probably delaying this until you feel you have the time is the right move so that you don't feel stretched too thin, because that is a very real concern from all of this.
Yeah.
So yeah, um, delay until you have the time, which should happen in the next month or so. Yeah.
But coming back to the beginning of this conversation, this uncertainty makes me stress. I don't know when, where, and what will happen, and I'm the planner guy. I told you in the first few sessions, I was trying to plan our sessions, and obviously that wasn't working. And yeah, my current few next month aren't plannable, and yeah, uncertainty makes me stressed. Yeah.
Well, in this case, I think there are always a couple of things you can do with uncertainty. One is try to turn it into certainty, and the other is try to live in that uncertain world. And in this case, given that there are about 5 people involved, and it sounds like the uncertainty is coming from the project managers, is there a way you could talk to them or a person that they represent, like a manager or something?
I mean, yeah, sure, but I couldn't imagine something that they could say to make me less stressed. And I'm uncertain about the transition phase and not the outcome of this phase.
I see. I see.
I'm
Yeah. So the transition being you're still already in a transition, which isn't going to
Yeah.
end, which is this new role, and then also taking on project management.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this though. How did it work with this last transition phase, knowing that you're still in it? Beforehand, you were excited, you were taking this exam, you wanted to pass with flying colors. Now you're settling into the role. Now that you can look back, again, it's not over, you're still in the transition phase, but did it go poorly? What would you have changed?
It went pretty good, I guess. I would have changed a few things, especially with timing. But I couldn't have predicted this at the time when I was transitioning into this role. So basically, I would have taken the exam a few days, a few months earlier, and yeah, it was basically timing stuff. But I would love to tell you that I would be able to turn down my stress levels through this transition period, but I wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, yeah, and we're definitely going to touch on that soon too. But part of what I'm trying to uncover here is that you just went through a very, very large transition and you seemed mostly good. Now, I
Mhm.
know there's still been stress as part of that, and I think you're now at a level where I don't think your job will ever let you coast again. So if you started a company, you know, you're maybe college hire or something, you could certainly coast probably half the time, three-quarters of
Mhm.
the time, and still get your job done. You now have a level of responsibility, people who depend on you, hiring, talking to customers, et cetera, where we're probably not going to ever get back to coasting. So with that said, there's always going to be a baseline level of stress and inputs. And as
Mhm.
long as you're healthily managing those, I don't think there's a problem. So you just had a transition. Like I said, sounds like it was mostly good. What was different between that transition and this one that you perceive coming up about project management?
I guess nothing. I think I was um, the only difference I can identify right now is that I wasn't in a transition phase before going into this transition. So I have a double transition right now, which I hadn't before starting the new role.
Yeah. Yeah, this is certainly something that would stretch you. And I think if you identify that it's an opportunity you do want and that maybe this will only come around now or I don't like what are the odds you could push this off for 6 months so that they could just be the same as last time? You're going from stability to transition.
I don't think that's an option.
Yeah. Yeah. So um here's and we're going to dig into this some more, but remember you have a limited amount of time and it's figuring out how you spend that time. So I think you'll probably need to start leaning on something else to reduce your stress. And I know you haven't found that thing and we'll drill into
Yeah.
that, but yeah, I can't say this will be stress free or we can get some way of having this be stress free. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing I'm bothered by the most. I think, guys, I have no vent to get off this stress.
Yeah.
And you asked me what if I could disconnect right after the workday, and the answer is currently no. And I want to change that instead of the stress I have at work.
Yeah. Okay, um let me look through some of your bullet points here really fast so I can see. Uh,
I guess we touched on a few of them already.
Yeah, okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna bump one of these down a bit, and I want to talk about this because this is definitely the most pressing thing. A lot of stress currently. Okay, you mentioned being pulled in too many directions, not having an outlet, sports streak is broken. Let's see, programming in the evening doesn't work as well. In the past, what have you been in a situation that resembles anything like this, where you feel like you've been stressed for an extended period of time?
Yeah, there were quite a few transition phase. So basically, right after university, looking for a job and coming into this new programmer role and starting at my first company. Transitioning to the current company wasn't a phase which was quite long and stressful. Um, and right after I got the product owner role, also this transitioning phase where I wasn't sure what I was expected from me, especially handling customers with such a political background.
Okay. And now that all of those things are in the past, is there anything you've identified in common of how you got through them? Because I suspect I know the answer, but I want to, yeah.
There was programming for me. There was
Yeah.
always, I could in the evening go to my computer, boot up my laptop and start programming my app or some other project, but it was always in an transitioning phase where my mind wasn't so stressed that I couldn't think in the evening. But so currently I'm so my energy is so low right after work that I can't focus on programming, and hence my stress outlet is gone for the evening.
Yeah. I see. Um, and then eventually, the transition finishes and then you feel like you've got things under control. And by the
Yeah,
way, that's going to happen again here too. I'd like to find a way for you to not have so much stress through it that you feel like you're operating at maximum capacity the entire time.
yeah. I
So,
know I have two things I know work for me. Three actually. So blasting music really loud is one of them. Doing sports and uh, depends on the stress I have. Meeting friends and family.
yeah.
Those are the three outlets that work. But I'm currently not motivated to do any of them. Yeah. So music, I don't feel like music would help me in this circumstance. Sports would help. I have missed meditating. Those would help too. But I'm struggling to start this habit in so much stress I am under.
Yeah. Okay. So, this is something I've struggled with too. And what's hard to say is even if I had a solution that worked for me, it wouldn't necessarily work for you as well unless we could
Mhm.
figure out what's general enough from that. Something I've created for myself is a stress flow chart. And I've talked about this before a little bit, but
Mhm.
it was pretty much just when I'm stressed because of, let's say, sickness or physical pain, or, a friend did something that bothered me. I try to figure out what has helped me move past those things. And a lot of times I actually have come to an answer that's helped because for something like, let's say you get sick, it's like, well, it's pretty obvious. Usually it's rest and
Mhm.
that'll help you get through. Okay, fine. But now something like this where your mind is just kind of constantly active and you don't feel like you have energy, I think it can be really, really hard to 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 come up with a way to put it at ease. And especially when you don't feel motivated. I have some ideas, and I want to just kind of talk to you about some of these.
Mhm.
For one, you and your girlfriend just went on the sailing trip. Is she
I
generally?
went alone,
Oh, you
not
went
with
alone.
my girlfriend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But the next one is with her.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I assumed it was both that were with her.
No.
Anyway, is she generally sort of in tune with your stress level, and has she ever been like, hey, let's go do whatever, a weekend or hiking or something like that?
She's very attuned and she knows when I'm stressed, but she isn't pushing me to do something if I'm really low on energy.
And even if she did, does she have any ideas that are beyond the like some sports thing?
Um, I'm sure she has, but she doesn't vocalize them.
Yeah, I see. Because the idea that I'm getting at here is that potentially you can put this into somebody's hands a little bit, and typically,
Mhm.
close friends, significant other, some family, and say, "I am going through a rough time. Can you help?" It's not necessarily explicitly stated that way, but something like, "Hey, things have been busy. Do you mind setting up a get together or
Mhm.
something like that?" Are you still doing you said there was a group of friends that's playing Dungeons and Dragons and they got together regularly. Is that still
Yeah.
happening?
Yes, but
Okay.
that's only once a month, and yeah, it's
Does that help?
too rarely. Yeah, yeah, 100%. But I feel refueled for a few days afterwards, but not for a month, basically,
Right.
until we see each other again. Yeah.
Right. So, okay. Because if you, I'm not suggesting this, but if you did D&D 20 times as often, you might feel refueled for the whole month, right? So
Might be, yeah.
I think what this comes down to is, like I said, leaning on other people and getting these things to happen without you needing to do them necessarily.
Hmm.
So a sports thing, maybe there's someone you want to go running or climbing or any number of things. And for you to set it up would be tough, but maybe for you to know that hey, this Saturday we're doing
Hmm.
whatever, I would suggest asking your friends, asking your girlfriend, hey,
Yeah.
can you do some of that? And then uh, the other thing I was going to say is if they don't want to, or if you want to direct what that is, you could sort of consider like body doubling was a way to get things done that are productive with other people. But you
Hmm.
can sort of consider like, hey, can we just, I don't know, you need to go grocery shopping or something. Can I be with you when I go do this? Or start joining people for your activities that you might already be
Oh,
doing, but that aren't
yeah.
necessarily thought intensive processes. So,
I like that idea. Yeah.
yeah. Um, Beyond that, I think programming at the end of the day, yeah, almost certainly won't work in this situation because you probably have almost no energy left. And then the sports stuff, you said you haven't had the motivation to do it on your own. Is there any other, have you, like, would it be possible to join a class or something, or is that in the same category of not having motivation?
I think it's the issue of joining the class. It's not the attending a class, but I don't want to start something new if I'm this stressed, and yeah, hence the struggle to get going. I have so if it would be in a class signed up for it, and we're going a few times a week. That was would nothing preventing me from going there, but signing up for a new class would be.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, then I think the good thing to start would just be to lean on your current support network and see how you can pull your mind away from some of this. And I hope that helps. If it does work, you can ratchet that up pretty easily and just say, okay, now let's do
Mhm.
things whatever twice a week. But yeah, and then the other aspect I wanted to talk about. So that was one, which is how do we find some replacement for these activities? And then the second is how do we take away activities that might be adding to this? And it doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily mean personal things. It could be something you're doing at work. Is there any way that you could, let's say, expedite the getting rid of the smaller project that you're working on?
It shows the only thing I'm not stressed about. So my
Okay.
yeah, it's the project I'm running on and running since a few years and 1.5 years, and I'm so settled in that it isn't putting on more stress. Um, I guess the more immediate thing I would be able to do is finishing this new customer sales pitch we are working on. Um, but that's nothing that the business would like to see.
Yeah. Yeah, I see. Okay, well, is there anything else? So maybe interviewing, could you hold off on that for a little bit?
Um, I don't think so.
Okay.
There's currently so much going on, and yeah, there are some. Our parent company is putting a lot of pressure on us to do this recruitment stuff, and I don't think I'm able to put this aside.
Okay. Um, I I think you've got a good idea of this exercise, at least, of analyzing what could be there at work. So I'm not going to go through
Yeah.
everything necessarily, but if there is something where you think, yes, this is important, but it can be held off for another month, probably hold off for another month then. And even something like this project management transition, talking to these project managers who exist now and saying, look, realistically, this can't happen until after my trip to Turkey.
Hmm.
And even then, maybe it takes another week or something like that. So there's that. That's the work side of things. personal side, is there anything going on that, I mean this in the nicest possible way, is typical Peter, where it's like, I'm doing way too much. I've got a ton on my plate.
Um, so I don't know if you saw this. I'm working on the last 20% of my app, and it's the last 20% are never the funnest. And I guess I'm currently looking into this as if I finally do this, a lot of stress is lifted, and if I try to put it aside, it's still on my mind, and I can't put it aside really easily. And since it's so close to launch, it's basically the last. Let's call it last 2% to 5%, and I guess I want to release it possibly this next month. I hope for this weekend, but I'm not sure if I can manage this. But I hope if it's complete, if it's launched, I have a lot less on my plate than I'm currently having. Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad I said the typical Peter thing, because this is typical Peter. You want to launch an app while you're at your most stressed. I should be yelling at you right now. Look, really, I know what you said about you probably would stress yourself out by putting it aside, but I feel like, again, at the level you're operating, at the amount of things that are going on in your life, that is an easier pill to swallow than to do all of this stuff at once. So trying to get on board with this idea of, well, what if I launch the app in 2 months? And you can even set a time for yourself. But right now it's a commitment that I'm assuming is a commitment to yourself. Have you, promised investors or so commitment to yourself, which means it's the easiest thing to drop relatively because no one else is relying on this or expecting it. And it's not even something you're dropping. It's something you are delaying.
I'm really not sure if this would help my mind. Because so if I got the motivation and the mind to do programming in the evening, I am feeling less stressed afterwards. So it is still working if I have the mind to do so.
Yeah.
So on a weekend, so basically for a long weekend like this upcoming one, it's something I'm looking forward to, and it's motivating me to look forward to the weekend. And I'm not focused on the 1 month or 2 month thing. I'm working day to day and seeing where it goes and when I'm able to launch. But I hope if it's launched and when it's launched, it's something I could put aside more easily. Yeah.
Assuming you don't start something new and say, I want to make another
Obviously.
app. Well, okay.
Obviously.
So there's a trend that I'm seeing, which I'm going to throw this out there, but I haven't fully formulated this thought myself. You were working on this project with your peer, and at the beginning of our mentoring sessions, it was before you had stepped into this leadership role, and you weren't sure if they were ready, and you even touched on it today where you said they've proven that they're skilled at this. Mm-hmm. So by you putting aside the time for them to work on this and giving them the opportunity, they, like I said earlier, rose to the challenge and everything worked out great. This is another one of those cases where, now you said you're at 2 to 5%, but somewhat recently you were at 7 to 8%, and before that 12 to 30. If you had set this aside at the 20% mark and said, you know what, I know this is helping somewhat, I'm just going to drop this and see what happens. I wonder if that would have created the space for something else to fill its place that is more relaxing than work, that could still give you that feeling of, I'm looking forward to that this weekend.
I guess my mind isn't working as like you mentioned. So what you're suggesting is, in my mind, sounds like try to make free time and see what you can fit inside to make you less stressed. What my mind is looking for is, let me find something else that is more stress relieving than programming, and then I set aside programming easily and do this thing I found. and I haven't found something else.
Yeah, but I think this is because it's related to the desire to always keep doing the next step and to move forward and to have progress in things. And the reason why I think this is important to touch on is if you were to step somehow out of your body and just look at your life from the outside and think, am I happy with how things are going? You'd probably be very happy with, okay, I've grown in this leadership role. I passed the exam. You recently got the pay raise or are getting it very, very soon. You have this opportunity for project management. Then you look at your personal life and you're like, I'm sailing again. I've learned this thing about vacations. I'm spending time with my friend. There's so much that's going well. And so if you can find a way to be satisfied with what's going well, then you might not be seeking out more. And I think recognizing that right now you're in almost 2 transition periods is what will make that easier to come to terms with, such that then maybe you're not seeking out a more relaxing activity. You're like, I've done my work for the week, so I don't have the urge to do more work. And I recognize it'd be pushing me too far.
I don't see programming as a work, but I think I know what you meant. Yeah, it's possible, and it's something I have to reflect over. It's nothing what comes easy to me. I'm not the kind of person that watches TV in the evening for relaxation. I'm not the. I want to do something to relax. So programming was the most easiest one.
Okay, let me split a hair here. I know you said the programming is fun, but you also yourself said the last 20% isn't the funnest. So there's other work that's going on in releasing this that you must not be enjoying for you to have said that.
Yeah, obviously.
Okay. Yeah.
Releasing an app on Android is horrendous.
Yeah. Well, so that's what I'm saying. Like you're looking forward to the parts that are fun, and yet the fun doesn't come in isolation. It's attached to these tasks that you don't like, which I'm not sure if there is a net negative on your stress as a result of that. It's possible that you're like, well, cool, the programming part was fun, and then you've got a half hour of struggling with whatever the Google Play Store.
Yeah. It's really, really bad.
Okay, but see, this is what I'm talking about. You're looking at only the positives of this thing and then saying, yeah, but look, this is why this is not causing stress.
Yeah.
And yet you've said now that the experience was rough multiple times. So
I think my net negative, my net result is positive in dealing with stress, but it's not as positive as only programming. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, launching an Android app. Yeah, and the reason I mention all this is because when you're in a situation like this, I don't think there's ever going to be a very, very clear, easy, obvious solution of, oh, why didn't I think of that before? Of course, I'll just go whatever, sail every weekend. It's not going to happen because your mentality is intertwined with all of these parts. The wanting to do more is what's getting you into these transition periods, which are generally good, but then by being in them for these short amounts of time, you're at maximum capacity for your stress. So now you need to pull this from something, and it's hard to identify what things to pull it from. And at work, we went through a laundry list of things there, and you said there aren't any clear opportunities to cut back, and the ones that you could cut back on are not stressful. And now I'm starting to think, are they not stressful like how releasing an Android app isn't stressful, or are they honestly not stressful? And I think in your small project, it's just honestly not stressful because like you said, you've been working on it for a couple of years. But that's another thing that I would start to, just like how you learned that my vacation should be 2 weeks instead of 1, I'd start to think about what are the patterns I'm getting into with my thinking that ends up getting me in stressful situations, and how can I address them when they're just thoughts before they've become commitments and personal responsibility. So yeah, I think this is one of those, like, probably come back to this, think about it, see how this resonates with you. Yeah, because let me ask you this. What if you were in this same level of stress for something like 6 months? What do you think would happen?
I would need to find a stress outlet beforehand.
Yeah. And given that you're in a situation now where you've already identified this is a need, I think it's worth focusing on sooner rather than later and trying things out. And so after you get done with this app, like you said, it could be this weekend, it could be this month. Okay, that's fine because the next transition period isn't probably starting for a month anyway as you wrap up these other responsibilities at work. But then once it has wrapped up, that should essentially mean you are now a leader, a project manager. You're no longer working on your personal app. Is something going to fill that personal time again, such that you're again at maximum stress? And there's a tendency to do that. So
Yeah.
yeah, what's leading to stressful situations? Will something just replace app after it's launched? And what else was I going to say? Yeah. And if you were in this situation for another few months, what would you do? Try to find a solution. So find one now. Okay, yeah. I'm writing this. It sounds kind of terse, but it's just me summarizing what our thoughts were from this. So, yeah, I think the more immediate thing that you can try at least is leaning on other people and seeing, hey, can you invite me to things, or can you set something up, or can we do something to take my mind off of this, and see where that goes and how you feel. And by the way, it could be something as simple to start with as, hey, let's do a D&D session twice a month. It doesn't solve your problem, but it's another thing that could potentially help. Okay, so there was one other thing that I'd moved down here, and then you also mentioned your app, which we touched on.
Yeah. Yeah, right. So I had my first one-on-ones with my directs, and yeah, it's some observation I took from this is written down there. It's fun to see. Fun is the wrong word, but it's quite interesting to see that some people are actively looking into growing themselves and developing new skills and tendencies and habits, and others are trying to do a really good job, but not going beyond for them. And it was because I was always the kind of person that is looking to develop themselves and grow. It was nothing that could cross my mind to get someone bluntly to tell me, yeah, I don't know, I don't want to go anymore, and I want to do a great job, but that's it. And yeah, that was a really interesting observation I took from this.
Out of curiosity, did this come up? Like, did someone actually say that to you? Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And how did you respond in the moment?
It is really fine because I know they are doing a great job.
Yeah.
I would have. I don't know if how I would have reacted if they would do a great job. But as long as they do what is assigned to them, and everyone is happy with their results, it's totally fine.
There's a phenomenon that I've been seeing as people grow in their careers, where eventually, at least around me, like I said, I live in a massive tech city, and half the people you talk to are Microsoft or Amazon employees, where you hit a level where you've been in it for long enough, you've sort of made enough money, you're comfortable with where you are, where the career ambitions shift into something else. Either they take on a hobby, they start a family, something happens to sort of fill that time, and they're just happy with their career. And like you said, they don't do a bad job, but they're not trying to get to be the next level. And we're all wired differently. And you started this series by saying, like, hey, I want to eventually be CTO. So how do we work toward that? And so I think it is a contrast to what you mentioned about this employee. And yet it's valuable to have all types of different people at a company.
Yeah.
And you don't know what your own journey is going to contain. Maybe 10 years from now, you are on the total opposite end of the spectrum saying, you know what, I'm sailing 49 weeks a year and I'm working for 3 weeks. Who knows? So I think it's good that you at least didn't push this person in a direction that they shouldn't go in. And if they weren't doing a good job, I would hope you'd guide them back on track. And I have confidence that you would do that. But it is an interesting observation to make.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's usually at least kind of somewhat obvious by how people carry themselves at work, what camp they fall into.
I guess I struggle to. So every position I have seen in my company where people did a good job, they transitioned in a few years or months into something new, and hence I wasn't expecting to see them saying, "No, I'm doing a great job, but I don't want to change."
Yeah.
And yeah, it wasn't something I would have thought this person would say.
You know, it's very tough. We just went on a walk this weekend with some friends, and they joined us at the beginning, but they weren't planning on joining us all the way to the end. And so originally the plan was they would walk for half of the amount of time that they thought would get them tired and then turn around. And I was like, that's a very tough, like, really think about it. How do you know
Yeah.
when double this length would put you at being tired? And yet that's essentially what that employee did, right? They said, I think if I went one level higher, I would be frustrated with the balance that I have. And it takes a lot of effort to not just keep pushing for, okay, I get more money, I get more responsibility, because at some point that equation tips against you. So
It was someone on this sailing trip had the observation one level higher. So basically, they told me if in retrospective, I would have stopped one level lower than I'm now, and I can't go back now, but I would love to do so.
yep, yep, that is a very common sentiment, I think, because it's one of those, yeah, you don't know until you're there, and then once you're there, it's not like you can go back. And I have an interview scheduled on stream for the end of, I think, June or July or something, where this is one of the topics we're going to talk about is mental health in tech, and just the impact it has on everybody who intersects with it. I think we're at time. Yeah. Any kind of last thoughts here? Anything that we didn't get to cover that you really want to talk about?
No, I think we talked about everything.
Okay.
I had some books written down, but obviously everyone can read. But yeah, no,
Okay, yeah,
it
and
was
we can bump it for next time. As I mentioned, this series was supposed to be about somewhere like 6 to 9 sessions, so we'll still kind of figure out how that goes. But I'm about to take a vacation. I know you're going to Turkey, so we'll figure out the scheduling and book a session 6 at some point. But thank you very much, Peter. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you too, and yeah, have a great holiday if you can't talk beforehand.
Yeah, yeah, you too. Yeah, enjoy.
Thanks.
All right, see you, Peter.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, chat. You know the drill. Claps for Peter. Takes a lot of guts to be on a thing like this and share everything about your professional life and how you feel. So I really appreciate it.